Now that we've done a couple of black and white conversions in Photoshop, which is the same thing as using Lightroom on the computer, we're going to try doing the same thing using Snapseed on the cell phone. And you'll see how really incredibly powerful these simple apps are and how much you can accomplish without even going to the computer. You'll see that what we're going to do is we're going to exaggerate the colors in the image first, in the color image, and then convert it to black and white. And this will give us more headroom for creating a really great and dramatic black and white image. So let's go take a look. This is the same photo we worked on in Photoshop of the Ashokan Reservoir in New York. So we're going to do a black and white conversion of this just like we did before, this time using Snapseed on the cell phone. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit on the tool icon and bring up Tune Image. What I want to do is I want to saturate the image. I want to bring up the colors as much as possible because this will give us the most to work with when we make the black and white conversion. So I brought up the saturation to 100. You can see the blue and the yellow and red in the sky. So definitely a little bit oversaturated. Hit the checkbox to accept that. I'm going to hit on the tool icon again, and I'm going to go to the black and white filter. And you can see we have three icons at the bottom. We have these recipes here of neutral, contrast, bright, dark, film, and dark and sky. If you do any of these, let's say the dark one, we can slide left or slide right to increase the intensity of this particular selection. Bring it back to 0. Then the middle slider just does brightness, contrast, and grain. Let's bring the contrast. I want to bring everything back to neutral. So contrast is 0, grain is 0, and brightness is 0. Then let's go over here to the colored filters. We have neutral, red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. So we know blue is going to lighten the sky and darken the reds and yellows. So that isn't going to work for us. Green a little bit less so. If we hit on yellow, we start getting some more drama in the sky, which is what we're after. The same with orange or red. And orange seems to actually do the most here. But so now I selected the orange, but now I can vary the intensity of it or the contrast by sliding left and right. So I can bring up the contrast a little bit to the right here, then go to brightness if I want to bring that up. I don't really need it. And grain, I don't want to add any grain. So there's quite a bit of modification that's possible with the way this is set up in Snapseed, and it's worth experimenting with. But we can even go a step further. So let's accept this, hit on the tool icon again, and let's go to the drama filter, which is exactly what it says. So here, let's go to Drama 1. It comes up with recipes just like the other filters did. And we can click on the slider. You can see the filter strength and saturation. So if I go to filter strength, I can lower the strength down or bring it up. And you can see it has a really dramatic effect on the photo. So bringing it up to about, let's say, a 70, that's pretty amazing. And it's really a remarkable filter. And you can see we've created a very dramatic black and white. And we can go back and, hit Drama 2 and experiment with that and do the same thing. I can, bring up the strength even more. So you can see by experimenting with this, we can really come up with a pretty intense black and white conversion from a pretty dull color image. Here's the same image we converted in Photoshop or Lightroom of the kids playing on the beach. I'm going to go through the same thing that we just did with the landscape photo. I'm going to hit on the tool icon, bring up Tune Image, hit on the slider, go to Saturation, and let's bring up the saturation. Again, so we have a lot to work with when we go into the black and white conversion. We'll accept so I slid to the right to increase the saturation, hit the check mark to accept that, go to the tool icon again, and go to black and white. And you can see we have the three icons at the bottom. We have the colored filters, the sliders, and the recipes for neutral, contrast, bright, etc. So let's go to the sliders first, and let's just set everything to 0. So I set the brightness to 0. I'm going to set the contrast to 0 by sliding into the middle. So now I have just a regular black and white conversion, nothing too exciting. We go to the colored filters, so we know that blue is going to lighten the sky and darken the skin tones, the red and yellows. That we don't want. So I know I'm going to need a yellow, orange, or red filter. So if we go to yellow, you can see, well, that looks pretty nice. We've lightened up the skin and we've darkened the sky. Some nice contrast. It seems to work. We can go to orange. The sky gets even a little bit darker, a little more contrasty. And if we go to red, pretty much the same thing, and it's affecting a little bit of the red graphics on the child's bathing suit, but that's okay. So maybe we can go with orange, and then we can go to the sliders in the middle, and I can bring up the contrast if I want. And we can bring it up a little bit, just add a little drama to it. And then we can also go to brightness, and we could brighten that up just a hair also. So you can see just with a few quick things, we can make a pretty dramatic black and white conversion of a color photo. And it's pretty easy to do on a cell phone using Snapseed. So you can see by these two images how incredibly easy it was to create black and white photos on your cell phone. And it's incredible how powerful these apps are and how much really can be done. And so you see that by exaggerating the color before we go into creating the black and white, it gives us more leeway in creating a really dramatic black and white image. And you see how you can play around with this and really adjust the colors and then go into black and white and see what the real possibilities are. So just like with everything else, experiment with it and see what you can come up with.